Hey, everybody, really excited and intrigued for this chat today with a true innovator in the world of B2B social media and content at Oktopost. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing great, Evan. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thanks for being here. Maybe start with some introductions to both yourself and Oktopost, and what's the big idea behind the company?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Daniel Kushner, one of the co-founders here at Oktopost and CEO. And in a nutshell, Oktopost is a B2B social media management platform. So think about everything social media, posting to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or X, we should say, YouTube, built for B2B organizations. So when we look at B2B organizations, it's really imperative that they understand the value that marketing brings to the business. And normally it's pretty easy to measure. So if I'm going to a trade show, we put down like $100,000 for a trade show booth. And then in the olden days, we used to collect business cards, and now you zap people, and those names they go into CRM. It goes into marketing automation, and then at the end of the day, you can understand how much you invested, how many leads, how much pipeline, and how much revenue you get. Even when you're doing things like ads, you have all the tracking abilities and understand how much I'm putting into ads and what I'm getting from the other end. When it comes to social media, it's a little bit more complex because the metrics they start to change on us. We're looking at things like likes, shares, retweets, comments, and those metrics don't normally correlate to business values and business metrics. So what we do here at Octopost, not only do we provide a platform that enables marketers to manage and measure the social content and the social investment, but also to understand the outcome and the business value that social brings to the organization, things like lead generation, opportunity and pipeline influence, and revenue.
Well, it's a brilliant proposition, and I'm super excited because I've been on a 15-year journey on social media in the B2B world, and it's only now recently I find that social has become a cornerstone for B2B organizations. And it's really because of the buyer journey. Maybe talk about how the buyer journey has changed and has been evolving.
Yeah. So there's been a consistent trend over the past even 2 decades that more and more of the research is done before there's ever a connection between a prospect and a brand or a company. We've heard this from the Forrest and Gartner's 20 years ago. It used to be 10%, 20%, 30%. Now, it's up to 60, 70, 80% of that research is done. And today, a lot of that research is being done on social, and it's being done between people and not necessarily the brands and the person. So if my old business card was the website where I can give all the information and a place for me to educate the community and my prospects and my customers, the website today is becoming less relevant, and people are really turning to social to get that education. So social is becoming the way that people are educating themselves for possible solutions out there. And when they do contact a company, they've already done their research. They know what you do, what
Mm.
you provide, the value proposition. They've looked at reviews online. They maybe even spoke to some of your customers. And that's done mainly through the social channels these days.
Indeed. And yet, I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of clients over 10 years as a content creator, an influencer, an analyst. And yet there are many hurdles organizations have trying to become a really best in class social first company. But what, in your opinion, are the hurdles, the challenges, the roadblocks, and how are they overcoming them?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that the main hurdle is around mindset. When
Mm.
you think about social, it's normally the correlation that you get. Okay, this is a B2C. This is TikTok. This is people dancing. People doing funny stuff. And there's and there is a world on the B2C social side. But there's a very, very different world on B2B social. And it's something real and something that's happening. So first of all, uh, on the hurdle side, it's understanding one that B2B social exists, and it's understanding that the way that B2B social behaves is nowhere like or nowhere near B2C social. Right? So
Mm.
it's understanding the concept. And the second hurdle is understanding that because social is critical, as we said, it's like the cornerstone of B2B organizations, it has to be a top-down approach. It has to come from leadership, right? If social is a part-time job of an intern in the in the basement office, not that we should be putting interns in the basement office, it's not going to work, right? And it has to be coming from the leadership, coming from the suites, the C suites, and for them to understand that social, it does have an impact on revenue, it does have an impact on pipeline, it does have an impact on customer retention, right? That's where your audience is. An audience is the mix between your existing customers and your future customers. And that's where you need to be, and that's where you have to be having your conversations. And it's not just the social team, right? It's not just the social media manager. It has to be the entire organization.
Well said. But speaking of the entire organization, as you know, most large businesses, large enterprises are very siloed. You've got, marketing, sales, customer success are often different teams, sometimes even PR, communications are, of course, external agencies. Um, so what's your approach or thoughts around unifying around a single strategy?
Yeah, that's unification around strategy. I believe, Evan, that we have to go back to the core basics. Like what do you unify around? And at a B2B company, the most solid piece of infrastructure or solid foundation that we have is data, right? So we have to be looking at the same data. We need unified data to have a unified strategy, right? To get the alignment on top of that. So without taking care of the foundation, it's very hard to get alignment above. And just like in the we spoke about the buyer's journey and how they do their research way before they talk to someone. And I said, Evan, this is like a 2-decade old discussion. And also, if you remember the 2000s, right, we're also talking about breaking down data silos, right? Way back then, and it is still true today. And when we correlate social to the data silos, it's really understanding how can we share what's happening on social with the entire organization. I'll give you an example. If someone comments on LinkedIn, right? Who owns that comment within the B2B organization? Is it the social media manager? Right? Most probably not. The fact that it's on social, right? That piece of data, that comment doesn't belong to the social media manager, right? It really depends who did the comment. If it's a customer, maybe this is the account manager or the customer
Mm.
success, right? If this is someone who is in an active opportunity with sales, maybe the sales should take ownership of that comment and to engage into that conversation. So when we're looking at alignment, uh, one we need shared goals, right? And those shared goals is on top of the foundation of shared data, and then to make sure that the correct data gets to the correct people so we can take action. And I think that that's the most important thing. It's understanding, right? It's not again it comes from the leadership that I spoke to. If we're just shoving social down into a corner of a social team or a social media manager, it's not going to work because it's not. Yeah, they're involved. They can organize, right? But it's not solely their responsibility.
Yeah, really well said. So you work with many amazing brands. I'm looking at your website here, companies like Snowflake and IFS and Suzy and many others here. Without picking any favorite children, do you have any examples of social first organizations and how they're doing things differently.
Yeah. So the social first organizations I see, and again, I don't want to name specifics, but we do, I'll give you a customer in manufacturing, right? So they're very heavy on what's called employee advocacy. So it's getting the employees of the organization to share content on their personal social networks. That one, it increases amplification. In social advocacy or employee advocacy, it also positions these employees as thought leaders in the industry. So it's got a benefit for the employee, and it's got a benefit for the business itself. And what they're doing is they're constantly having roadshows and internal
Mm,
webinars and seminars explaining how to do social, why to do social, what's the benefit, right? If we think about taking sales, I believe that sales, they have a huge part of creating the social environment for the business. But why should a salesperson constantly be posting on social, right? Is this a chore or is this a benefit to the person? And one way that we can look at it is, there could be a social post that account executive posts that in the end is going to turn into $100,000 deal.
mm,
Right? There's that chance, right? It's going to happen. Is it going to happen on every post? No. Right? One in two posts? No. Right? But maybe one in 500 posts. Right? I'm a salesperson. One in 500 posts. Right? That's going to come. I'm going to get a new contact, a new prospect, have a conversation, and it's going to turn into a $100,000 deal. Now, for the mass, if I were an account executive, or if I were the social team training and speaking to my sales team, right, I would explain the math behind it because it's very simple. If out of 500 posts, one of those posts it triggered a $100,000 deal, right? So I take 100,000, I'll do a bit of math in my head. 100,000 divided by 500, that's $200. So me as a salesperson, every time I'm posting to social media, I'm getting $200.
mm.
Look at the ROI on that, right? It took me 5 minutes to draft a post, or to take a post that I got from my marketing team and to put it into my own words and to put that onto LinkedIn, right? Every time I'm doing that, I'm getting $200, right? I know that one in 500 is going to give me a $100,000 deal, right? So it's that mindset, right? Another way to look at it, and again, this is like I can turn it into very mathematical, right? By being a thought leader in my industry and constantly posting on LinkedIn thought leadership content and company content, or maybe webinars or case studies that we have, I have a bump in my close rate as an account executive, a 2% bump rate, right? So I'm going from a 20% close rate to a 22% close rate, right? And I can associate that 2% bump through my thought leadership and my social activity, right? So what's going from 20% to 22%? Well, if I'm doing $1 million a year in closed business, right now that's 1.2 million in closed business. It's $200,000, right? Because I'm socially active and I'm participating in the social activities, right? So yeah, going back to the success, it's this constant, I would say, training or discussion on how social it helps everyone from customer success to account managers to account executives. It's yeah, it has to be repeated and constantly repeated. And the companies that are able to constantly get that message across, employee onboarding, webinars, seminars, those are the companies that we see succeed.
Yeah, I would agree. And fun anecdote from my end. A few years ago, one of my clients, a contact center software company, new client, um, from a single tweet of mine, they were able to generate a $3.5 million deal that was directly attributable to that post of mine tweet. And they immediately signed me up for an annual retainer. They're like, wow, this now that's an outlier. Those things don't happen every day, but it's fun to look at attribution and actually a direct line between all that social goodness and revenue and sales. So Uh, but that leads to the question of data and tracking and the role of proving ROI. I mean, that's a great ROI story, but again, that doesn't
Yeah.
happen every day. So how do you go about doing that? What are the metrics and the data points that B2B leaders should prioritize?
Yeah. So yeah, data. It's also a topic like data. You can talk all day long about data and metrics and what to measure. Uh, I'm going to sidetrack a bit, right? Because I'm talking about data and metrics and what to influence. So here at Octopost, we've recently in the past 8 months, we're implementing what's called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. But there's a book called Traction. Uh, very interesting, and it gives you a blueprint on how to manage everything from people to product to meetings to to what to track and what data. And they have this concept called scorecards. And the
Mm,
scorecard are these, it's a bunch of numbers that you look at on a weekly basis. And these are the activities that you're meant to be doing that moves the needle. Now, it's getting to those activities that you're meant to be measuring is a very complicated exercise. It took us like 6 months to get to those
mm,
numbers. Because it's not, I can't track, if you're looking at sales, ARR, right? Because ARR it's a lagging indicator. That happens at the end when you close the deal. You have to go back. What are the leading indicators that I'm looking at that if I do those things that I have 100% control, so it's my behaviors are going to get me to my goals. And we're looking at ROI. You've got everything from the number of followers to the number of clicks to the number of comments and reactions or likes, right? So and what is the right metric to measure? So I always like if I have to look at one number, it's like the last leading indicator before something significant happens. Okay, so if we look at it, let's say we'll zoom out of social and then go back into social. So if we zoom out of social and we look at marketing in itself, like what is the like the golden number of marketing? In my opinion, the golden number or metric for marketing is marketing influenced SQLs, right? How many Salesforce qualified leads I got into the pipeline, right? That's a leading indicator to revenue. And it's like the end indicator for marketing. Like you got what are the leading indicators to SQLs? You've got website traffic and conversions and MQLs, and you can get a bunch of that, but you might not be producing SQL. So SQL is like somewhere in the middle. When it comes to social, you've got like the very early stage. You've got the clicks and the shares and the comments and the followers on that end. But then you also, if we're looking at the business, we want to understand how that influences opportunities, right? So for me, a good understanding or a good starting metric to understand the ROI of social is to have a simple indicator, which is the percentage of opportunities that were influenced by social,
mm.
right? That social, like there was like something happened in social during an opportunity, right? And what is the percentage, right? And then you can start to understand like my socially influenced opportunities. What's my close rate versus non-social influence opportunities? What's the close rate there? And to start to understand the impact, right? And when you're measuring, always in my book of measurements, it doesn't matter how accurate your measurement is, as long as it's consistent, because you want to see change, right? You're looking at trends. So even if my measurement is off 10, 20, 30%, that's fine. As long as it's consistently off, and then I can start to see a trend over time. I want to get more influenced or see the more opportunities that are touching or that are touched by social have a higher closing rate.
Fantastic. So let's move from the tangible, the data, to the intangible, and that's crafting content that really connects and hits home. And there, I think many B2B companies are not getting it. They're not creating content that, that uses storytelling techniques and thought leadership, thinks about connecting with their buyer personas. Um, what advice would you have beyond just be clever and interesting, which isn't very good advice? How can they get better at this social art?
Yeah. So the first thing is every single social post, why is it being written?
Mm,
And not just a social post for a social post. Am I right? Like what is my the reason I'm writing this post? So let's first we can try to categorize them. And you mentioned some of them. So I've got posts which are around thought leadership, right? Thought leadership, it creates awareness, right? And it creates credibility. And then I've got posts which are uh, around customers or storytelling, right? This is how one customer solved a solution. This is how we uncovered and solved a pain for another customer. Right? Use cases and customer testimonials or customer stories. And then we've got a bunch of posts which are very pure lead gen or demand gen oriented posts. We're doing a webinar, or come download this gated piece of content. Right? So we're doing this purely for lead gen. So it's to create the reasons why I'm creating these posts. And then every company, they have to, because it's based on the audience, and audiences, the different, for every industry or every company is what is the, what is the mix of these different top content types, right? Do I have an audience where they're very, very acceptive to like the demand gen or lead gen type content? Every time I post that we're doing a webinar and getting 1,000 signups, or do I have to have at least 40% of thought leadership content, right? Or 30% of storytelling content. So it's understanding what that mix is. And then when I'm creating my social calendar, when I'm understanding what am I going to write about this week or this month, is to make sure that I have that combination and I have that mix of different content types. And then if we go back to the measurement, right, I'm going to be measuring them differently, right? If I'm looking at, for example, if I could want a thought leadership piece of content to get more engagements, likes, shares, comments. I want my lead generation content to get more clicks, right? So is a piece of content that gets more clicks worse or better than a piece of content that gets more engagement? Well, it
mm.
depends on what was the purpose of that content in the first place, right? So it's even what it was. So it's like to summarize that is understanding what type of content, what is the purpose of the content I'm writing, what is the mix of those pieces of content that I have to have on a weekly or monthly basis, and then each one individual, how do I measure the success, right? And understanding that it's not the same for every, there's no golden formula or golden triangle for social media content, right? It has to be figured out by each business. And the way that you figure these things out, one is you brainstorm, you have a thesis, and you test it with data, right? Is this working? Is my thought leadership content, getting, is it being shared? Because, if you're going to share something that's interesting on LinkedIn, I'm going to click the share button, right? I want my audience to see what Evan wrote because it's an interesting piece of content, right? And then it's got its goal, right? If it was something that you wanted to start to generate a list from and to collect contact information, right? You want me to click on something to fill out my information to get a piece of content. So it's understanding that mix. It's going to create a successful kind of social content strategy.
Got it. Absolutely. The other thing, of course, that's happening is so much change, so much disruption, new platforms, emerging technologies. Of course, AI is changing everything, rewriting the rules, even for my little business, completely upended, changed for the good over the last year through AI. The fact that I can do a daily podcast and show like this, impossible without AI. But what's your advice for leaders trying to navigate this new world and all this change and disruption that's ahead.
Yeah. So one, I'll go back to one of the answers that I gave you, the beginning of this show, is about mindset. And the mindset, you have to be here fluid. What worked yesterday, it doesn't mean it's going to work today, right? We see this, take it to a different industry, take it to outbound and SDR, right? The email that got 20 meetings last year, most likely it's going to get 0 meetings this year. One, it's been used, it's been noticed, it's not, the pattern interrupt that I used last year is now a known like technique this year for SDRs, so it's not going to work. So it's it's a mindset that I have to constantly be changing and reinventing. Here at Octopost internally, we call it ABL, always be learning, right? It's you have to be learning and testing and not being afraid to fail, because if you have a new platform, you have new AI, so you're going to try these things out. They may work, they may not work, right? So it's this constant change, right? So you've got your core and the things that worked in the past, and that's going to shift and change over time.
Brilliant. So let's talk Octopost. How do you see yourself and the team fitting on the landscape of marketing tech? Let's say you have these market maps that have thousands of companies, a constellation of stars. Why do customers and why do they choose Octopost over the many competitors you have out there?
Yeah, so one, if there's a matching DNA, and what's the matching DNA?
Mm.
If you're a B2B organization, we're B2B social, right? I'm not going to use if I want to do off-road driving, I'm not going to buy a Ferrari, right? I'm going to get like a 4x4, a Jeep, or a Land Rover, something that's good for my purpose. So if you're a B2B organization, you need a company and platform that does B2B. We have the privilege of having the collective knowledge of hundreds of B2B organizations. So when we're talking to one company and they're sharing their problems, they're sharing their pains, we'll dig into our CRM and our knowledge on how are other B2B organizations in that industry solving those pains and those problems, right? And that's because we're very focused in that niche. We're able to provide those solutions. And it's not just the technical solution. It's not just the product, but it's the knowledge sharing, of the industry.
Brilliant. So as we head into the quarter and the year, what are you excited about? What are you up to in the team in terms of your own efforts, out in the field, new releases, events, et cetera? What's on your radar?
Yeah. So one, we're coming out. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'll say it anyway. Like, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission,
Well, it
right?
helps
So
being the CEO as well. So
yeah,
yes.
no, I get in trouble all day long for the things I say, but we'll put it on this on this podcast. So we're releasing a new product coming out April 2nd. Well, I'm really going to get in trouble here. It's called marketing intelligence.
Mm.
And in a nutshell, what marketing intelligence does, it gives you insight of your competitors' content marketing strategy.
Wow.
Right. So it's very exciting because when we're looking at the content marketing piece, where social is a part, and content is more than social. It's always interesting to hear, what are my competitors doing? Like what would someone give to be a fly on the wall inside that content strategy meeting at a competitor, right? That'll be a very interesting experience. But we can't be in a fly on the wall. We're not going to put microphones inside our competitors' boardrooms. But what we can do, we can look at the content they're producing, on social, on PR, on their website, and their blogs, events they're attending, right? And this is all the output, the end result of their content strategy meetings. right? So this new product that we have, marketing intelligence, is going to combine all this output of the content, and of course using AI to analyze the changes and trends and changes and how these companies or these competitors are shifting in their content strategy. So that's really
Brilliant.
exciting. And then on the AI front, this I'm not going to share because it's like too secretive, but really interesting efforts that we're putting into in the world of AI agents.
Mm. Well, we'll have to catch up on that mic drop
Yeah,
moment. Look forward to diving into that at some point. Thanks so much, Daniel, for joining and sharing the vision onwards and upwards.
it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. And thanks, everyone. Bye bye.